midnight visitor. The CEO opened her door at midnight wearing nothing but a silk robe. The man on her doorstep wasn't who she expected. What happened next would either save her empire or destroy everything she'd built. But here's the twist. He was just there to return a box. Hashtag Chapter 1. The rain had started around 10 o'clock that Tuesday night, turning the streets of Harwick into glossy ribbons of reflected neon. Caleb Mercer sat in his aging Ford pickup outside the Riverside Apartments, engine idling, watching water stream down the windshield. In the passenger seat sat a small cardboard box wrapped in brown shipping paper that had started to soften from the humidity. It had been sitting in his apartment for 3 days, delivered to Unit 412 instead of 412, Riverside Drive. A mistake that happened more often than the Postal Service cared to admit. Caleb had meant to deal with it sooner, but between his shifts at Morrison Construction, picking up his 7-year-old daughter Maya from school, helping with homework, making dinner, and collapsing into bed, the box had kept getting pushed to tomorrow. But tonight, Maya was at her grandmother's for a sleepover. Tonight, Caleb actually had a few hours to himself. And something about that box, maybe the expensive leather corner he'd glimpsed through a tear in the wrapping, maybe the embossed gold initials, EH, stamped into what looked like a planner, had been nagging at him. Whoever owned it probably needed it. Caleb wasn't the kind of man who left things unfinished. Even small things. Especially small things. The small things were what kept the world from falling apart. He killed the engine, grabbed the box, and stepped out into the rain. The address led him to Riverside Drive, to the wealthy side of Harwick, where houses sat back from the street behind iron gates and manicured hedges. Number 412 was a modern masterpiece of glass and steel. Warm light glowed from inside, but the curtains were drawn. This wasn't the kind of neighborhood where a guy in work boots and a rain-soaked jacket belonged. Caleb felt that knowledge settle into his shoulders as he walked up the flagstone path and knocked twice. For a moment, nothing. Just the sound of rain drumming on the roof overhang. Then the door opened fast, so fast it startled him, and Caleb found himself looking at a woman who seemed to exist in a different frequency than the rest of the world. Evelyn Hart stood in the doorway wearing a silk robe the color of midnight, her dark hair still damp and falling just past her shoulders. No makeup, no armor. But her eyes, sharp, intelligent, exhausted in a way that had nothing to do with the hour, scanned him with the kind of assessment usually reserved for contract negotiations. "You're not security," she said. Not a question, a statement of fact delivered with cool precision. "No, ma'am. Just the guy who got your mail by mistake." Caleb held up the box like an offering. For a split second, her expression shifted. Confusion, then recognition, then something harder to read. Her gaze dropped to the package, then back to his face, then past him to the empty driveway and rain-soaked street beyond. "I'm sorry for the late hour," Caleb added. "I can just leave it with you. Come in." She stepped back, opening the door wider. 2 minutes. "Ma'am, I don't need to." 2 minutes, she repeated, and there was something in her voice that made it clear this wasn't a request born from politeness. This was control. Caleb hesitated. Every instinct told him to hand over the box and leave. He didn't belong in this world of glass houses and silk robes. He had pancakes to make in the morning, a daughter who'd be home by 8, a life that was simple and stable and his. But he also saw something in Evelyn Hart's eyes that he recognized from his own mirror on the worst days after the divorce, someone holding it together by sheer force of will. So he stepped inside. Hashtag Chapter 2. The interior of the house hit him immediately, not with warmth, but with precision. Everything was curated, expensive, beautiful in the way museum exhibits were beautiful, spotless hardwood floors, minimalist furniture in shades of cream and charcoal, abstract art on the walls that probably cost more than his truck. Evelyn closed the door behind him with a soft click. "The box," she said, gesturing toward a marble-topped console table. Caleb set it down carefully. "Postal Service mixed up the addresses. Sorry it took me a few days to get it here. Work's been." His words died as he caught sight of the room beyond the entryway. It was an office, or had been. Now it looked like a war room in the middle of a siege. Papers covered the floor in careful arrangements. A laptop sat open on a glass desk. File folders were stacked in precarious towers. And on the coffee table, 3 phones lay in a row, all dark except for one that suddenly lit up with an incoming call. The name on the screen, Grant Mitchell. Evelyn's jaw tightened. She didn't move to answer it. The phone buzzed once, twice, 3 times, then went dark. 10 seconds later, it lit up again. Same name. They won't stop, Evelyn said so quietly Caleb almost didn't hear it. The words weren't meant for him. They just won't stop. She seemed to realize she'd spoken aloud. Her posture straightened, that mask of control sliding back into place. Thank you for returning the planner. I apologize for the inconvenience. It was a dismissal. Polite, final, absolute. Caleb should have taken it. Should have nodded, wished her a good night, and walked back out into the rain. Instead, his gaze drifted to the front windows and caught on something that made his contractor's brain itch with concern. Through the glass, visible in the glow of the porch light, the fixture itself was flickering, not the romantic flicker of candlelight, but the irregular sputter of faulty wiring. Your porch light's about to be a problem, he said, nodding toward the window. The casing's loose, wires exposed. You get any wind with this rain, that could arc and short the whole exterior circuit. Or worse. She stared at the flickering light, then at him. How much worse? Fire. Electrical burns if you touch it wrong. Property damage. The usual fun stuff. Another phone started buzzing. A different one this time. Evelyn's eyes flicked to it, something dark crossing her expression. I can fix it, Caleb heard himself say. I do this kind of work. 10 minutes tops. I've got tools in the truck. The silence that followed was weighted with assessment. Evelyn Hart looked at him, really looked, taking in the calluses on his hands, the worn canvas jacket, the mud on his boots. Why? She asked simply. It was the question under all questions. Why would a stranger offer to fix her porch light at midnight in the rain? Caleb shrugged. Because it needs fixing. Because I can. Because leaving it broken seems wrong. Something shifted in her expression. Not trust, not yet, but a hairline crack in the armor. 10 minutes, she said with a single decisive nod. Hashtag chapter 3. The rain had intensified by the time Caleb retrieved his toolbox. He worked quickly, efficiently, the muscle memory of 15 years in construction guiding his hands. The whole time, he was aware of Evelyn standing in the doorway behind him, watching. She'd thrown a long coat over the robe and held a coffee mug in both hands, though he noticed she never actually drank from it. You do this for a living? She asked after a few minutes. Construction mostly, residential, some commercial. Electrical work is part of it. Caleb tightened the final screw, testing the connection. I'm not an electrician, but I'm certified for basic residential stuff. How long have you been doing it? 15 years, give or take. Started as a laborer right out of high school. Worked my way up. He flipped the circuit back on, and the porch light blazed to life. Steady, bright, no flicker. There we go. That should hold. Thank you. Caleb climbed down from his stepladder, wiping his hands on a rag. No problem. Just remember to check your exterior fixtures every few months, especially after storms. He started packing his tools, expecting that to be the end of it. The job was done. But then Evelyn said something that stopped him cold. You're hungry. It wasn't a question. It was a statement of fact delivered with the same certainty she'd used when she said he wasn't security. And the strange thing was, she was right. He'd skipped dinner, planning to grab something after dropping off the box. I'm fine, he said automatically. I have food. Too much food, actually. My assistant keeps sending meal deliveries. Evelyn paused, and for the first time since he'd met her, she looked uncertain. Stay? Eat. It's the least I can do after you've fixed that disaster waiting to happen. Every rational part of Caleb's brain screamed at him to decline politely and leave. He didn't know this woman. This wasn't his world. But there was something in the way she asked, something that felt less like obligation and more like she was testing whether human connection still worked the way it used to. Okay, he said, but I should probably leave my boots by the door. Hashtag chapter 4. The kitchen was as pristine as the rest of the house. Evelyn moved through it with surprising efficiency, pulling containers from the refrigerator. Rosemary chicken, roasted vegetables, fresh bread from that bakery on 5th, she narrated, almost to herself. My assistant has excellent taste and no concept of portion control for one person. Smells incredible, Caleb said honestly. Plates are in that cabinet, silverware in the drawer below. Make yourself useful. It was an order, but delivered without edge. Caleb found himself smiling slightly as he set the table. There was something oddly comfortable about the dynamic. Two people who didn't know each other, working in synchronized silence. Within 15 minutes, they sat across from each other at a dining table that could have seated 10. And for a moment, neither spoke. Just ate. And that silence wasn't awkward. It was steady. It was real. You mentioned a daughter earlier, Evelyn said eventually, breaking bread with careful precision. Caleb nodded. Maya. She's 7. Smart as hell and stubborn as concrete. Gets that from you. Gets that from her mother, actually. I'm the pushover. He smiled, but there was weight behind it. She's with her grandmother tonight. Sleepover, hence why I'm delivering packages at midnight instead of reading bedtime stories. He took a drink of water. Single father for 3 years now. Divorce finalized when Maya was 4. Her mother wanted different things, a different life. So she left. Signed away custody without a fight. Haven't heard from her since. Evelyn's expression didn't change, but something in her eyes sharpened with recognition. That must be difficult. Raising a child alone. Some days are harder than others. But Maya makes it worth it. She's the reason I get up in the morning. The reason I work doubles when I need to. The reason I fix porch lights at midnight instead of just ignoring strange boxes in my apartment. Because you're teaching her that things worth doing are worth doing right. Caleb looked up, surprised. Yeah, exactly that. They ate in silence for a moment, and Caleb realized he was genuinely curious about this woman. Not about her money or her house or her obvious power, but about the person underneath. Can I ask what you do? He said. I mean, I could probably Google it, but you haven't. Seemed rude. Evelyn set down her fork with careful deliberation. I run a tech company, Hard Analytics. We specialize in data security and corporate risk management. Started it 12 years ago in my apartment with a laptop and a business loan I probably shouldn't have been approved for. Now we employ 400 people and contract with half the Fortune 500. So you're kind of a big deal. I'm kind of a target. The words came out harder than she probably intended. Evelyn took a breath, visibly pulling back. Sorry, that was true, Caleb offered gently. She met his eyes, and in that moment, the mask fell completely. What he saw underneath was frightening in its rawness. Anger, fear, exhaustion, determination burning so hot it could melt steel. There are people who want what I've built, Evelyn said quietly. People who think they can take it because I'm a woman. Because I started from nothing. Because I don't play their games or bow to their threats. They're circling closer every day. And she stopped herself, jaw tightening. I'm fighting a war most people don't even know is happening. Caleb didn't offer platitudes. People like Evelyn Hart didn't need cheerleaders. They needed someone to witness the truth without flinching. How bad, he asked simply. Bad enough that I've hired private security for my office. Bad enough that I don't sleep more than 3 hours a night. Bad enough that every phone call could be the one telling me they've won. She picked up her wine glass. When had she poured wine? And took a long drink. A board member named Grant Mitchell is leading the charge. He wants me out. Wants to install himself or one of his puppets as CEO. Strip the company for parts. Sell it off piece by piece to his friends. He's been building a case for months, gathering votes, making promises, threatening anyone who might support me. That's legal. Corporate warfare rarely cares about legality, just plausible deniability. Evelyn's smile was sharp enough to cut. But I've been building my own case. Evidence, documentation, things that would end him if they came to light. The question is whether I can deploy them before he deploys his. Caleb leaned back in his chair, processing. This was so far outside his world of lumber and drywall and electrical codes that it might as well have been happening on another planet. Why not go to the authorities? The SEC or whoever handles corporate crime. Because by the time they investigate, the damage is done. Companies like mine live and die on reputation and investor confidence. If Grant manages to create enough doubt, enough scandal, the truth won't matter. The board will force me out to stabilize things. And by the time I'm exonerated, if I ever am, Hard Analytics will belong to someone else. That's ruthless. Welcome to high-stakes business. Evelyn refilled her wine glass, then seemed to realize what she was doing and set the bottle down firmly. I'm sorry. You came here to return a box, not listen to my corporate nightmares. I stayed for dinner, Caleb pointed out, which means I'm choosing to be here. And for what it's worth, your nightmare sounds like it needs more people on your side. Something in her expression softened. I have lawyers, security consultants, a PR firm on retainer. What I don't have is, she trailed off, searching for words, someone who isn't getting paid to care. Evelyn looked at him with something close to wonder. You have no idea who I am, what I'm worth, what connections I have. You're not impressed by any of this. She gestured at the house, the expensive everything surrounding them. Are you? Caleb considered lying, considered saying the right thing, the polite thing. Instead, he told the truth. I'm impressed you built something from nothing. I'm impressed you're fighting to keep it. But the house, the stuff? No, that's just money. Money doesn't tell me who you are. He met her eyes steadily. The fact that you let a stranger fix your porch light because it needed fixing. The fact that you're feeding me instead of sending me away. The fact that you're exhausted but still standing. That impresses me. The silence that followed was different from before. It was charged, weighted, full of something neither of them had words for yet. Evelyn opened her mouth to respond. And that's when the headlights swept across the windows. Hashtag chapter 5. Both of them froze. The warm kitchen atmosphere evaporated instantly, replaced by something cold and sharp. Through the front windows, Caleb could see a car pulling into the driveway. Expensive, dark, moving with the kind of confidence that didn't ask permission. Evelyn's entire posture changed. Not fear. He saw no fear in her. But every muscle tensed, every soft edge hardened. This was the CEO. This was the warrior. You should go, she said, standing up so fast her chair scraped against the floor. Now, out the back. Who is it? Someone who shouldn't be here. Someone who. The front door opened. Didn't knock, didn't ring the bell. Just opened like whoever was on the other side had a key or didn't care about locks or boundaries or basic human decency. A man stepped inside, bringing with him the scent of expensive cologne and entitlement.